Ladies and gentlemen, they thought they could break you. They thought their betrayal would destroy your faith, your hope, your purpose. But what they didn't realize is that God was watching the entire time. He saw the tears you cried in silence. He saw the way you kept loving even when you were broken. He saw the pain they caused, and He never left your side. You see, when someone betrays you, it feels like the deepest kind of wound. It's not from a stranger. It's from someone you trusted, someone you gave your heart to, someone you prayed for. And when they turned their back on you, it wasn't just rejection. It was spiritual warfare. But here's the truth. What they meant for evil, God is turning into power. This is not your downfall. This is your elevation. This pain didn't come to bury you. It came to birth something inside you. God is not only healing you, He is revealing the hearts of those who tried to walk over you. He's pulling back the curtain. The mask is coming off. The betrayal that was meant to silence you is the very reason heaven is moving on your behalf. When you chose not to retaliate, when you stayed silent and gave it to God, you passed the test. God honors the humble. He lifts up the rejected. He defends the innocent. And now, the one who betrayed you is facing a divine exposure. Not because you asked for revenge, but because God is a God of justice. He is not blind. He is not silent. He is not weak. He is patient. But when the time is right, He moves. And when He moves, no lie can stand, no deception can hide, and no weapon formed against you can prosper. You didn't lose anything. What walked away was never meant to stay, and what was hidden is now being brought into the light. This is your season of restoration. God is returning everything stolen from you, every ounce of peace, every lost opportunity, every dream they tried to shatter. You are not defeated. You are chosen. You are covered. You are rising. Let them talk. Let them watch. Let them wonder how you're still standing, because it's not by your strength. It's by God's hand. He is making your enemies your footstool. He is preparing a table for you in the presence of those who turned against you. And when He's done, the same people who mocked your pain will witness your breakthrough. You don't need to fight for yourself. God is fighting for you. The one who betrayed you is not your battle. They are God's lesson, God's tool, God's reminder that no one can stop His plan for your life. Your heart is pure. Your purpose is intact. Your destiny is protected. This is not the end. This is the unveiling. God is exposing what was hidden. He is revealing truth. He is defending His child. Keep walking. Keep trusting. Keep believing, because what's coming is greater than what was lost. The fall of your betrayer is not your victory. It's God's justice, and His justice is perfect. Even when others turned their backs on you, when the betrayal cut deep and left you wounded in silence, God saw it all. You might have felt alone, misunderstood, or even abandoned in that moment of heartbreak, but the truth is, God was right there, watching, listening, and grieving with you. Nothing escapes His sight. The words spoken behind your back, the plans made to harm you, the lies crafted to discredit you, He saw every detail. When people who once said they loved you began to walk away without explanation, when the ones you trusted the most left you broken, God was not distant. He was closer than your breath, holding you together when it felt like everything inside you was falling apart. The betrayal you faced was not just a personal wound, it was a spiritual wound. It challenged your faith, shook your foundation, and made you question your worth. But in those moments of silence, When no one knew the battles raging inside you, God knew. He didn't just witness the betrayal, he felt your pain. The same God who was with Joseph when his brothers sold him into slavery, the same God who stood by David when Saul tried to kill him, the same God who watched Judas betray Jesus, is the same God who stood by you. He doesn't overlook injustice. He doesn't ignore evil. He is the God who sees. You might have been silent, but heaven wasn't. You might not have defended yourself, but the Spirit of God was defending you in ways you couldn't see. He was working behind the scenes, not just to protect you, but to prepare something greater for you. Every tear you cried in secret was a seed planted in His presence, and He collects every tear, remembers every heartbreak, and stores it not as weakness, but as evidence of your trust in Him. While people saw you as weak, God saw you as faithful. While others assumed you were finished, God was just getting started. It's in these moments that we must remember that God is not blind to what others do to His children. He is a just God, a faithful God, a protective Father. He doesn't need your enemies exposed for your sake. He exposes them for His name's sake, because His child cannot be mocked without consequence. So don't think for a moment that your pain went unnoticed. Don't believe the lie that you were forgotten or ignored. You were seen, you were covered, you were loved through it all. The betrayal may have caught you by surprise, but it never surprised God. He allowed it not to break you, but to awaken something greater inside you. The same God who saw your suffering is now bringing justice, not because you demanded it, but because His righteousness demands it. The betrayal you experienced was not a random act. It was a spiritual test, divinely permitted not to break you, but to shape you. When someone close to you hurts you deeply, it shakes you to your core. But that moment of pain is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of something deeper, something sacred. God does not allow wounds without purpose. What felt like a breaking was actually a refining. You were being tested not for destruction, but for elevation. God uses the deepest wounds to pull out the deepest strength, and betrayal is one of His sharpest tools. You didn't fail. Your heart endured. You stood in the fire, and instead of becoming bitter, you remained faithful. That was the test. Would you let the betrayal define you? Or would you let it drive you closer to the one who never leaves? When others walked away, when they turned their backs on you and left you to pick up the pieces alone, it was never about them. It was about your preparation. God was watching how you would respond. Would you seek revenge or would you seek Him? Would you let your heart grow cold or would you trust Him to heal you? In your silence, in your prayers, in your tears, you passed the test. He proved that your identity is not built on the approval of others, but on the unshakable foundation of God's promises. Every time you held back from responding in anger, every time you forgave even when you weren't asked, heaven took note. That was strength, that was faith, and that was power. What the enemy tried to use to destroy you, God is now using to promote you. You didn't lose anything by being betrayed. You gained clarity, strength, and spiritual maturity. You saw who was for you and who was never meant to walk your full journey. The betrayal opened your eyes. It forced you to depend more on God than on people. And that is exactly where He wanted you. This test revealed your resilience. It showed that your love was real, your loyalty was deep, and your heart was pure. And while others may have mistaken your silence for weakness, God saw it as obedience. Obedience in the face of betrayal is one of the highest forms of worship. So that pain you endured, it wasn't in vain. It was the evidence that you were being spiritually promoted. You were chosen to endure what others couldn't handle, because there's a calling on your life that requires a tested heart. You can't carry God's glory with a heart full of bitterness, and that's why the test came, not to harm you, but to cleanse you. You passed it quietly, faithfully, and powerfully. And now, because you didn't let the betrayal break you, God is about to bless you in ways that only the broken can carry. When you were betrayed, you had every right to retaliate, to defend yourself, to expose those who wounded you. But you didn't. You chose silence. You chose prayer. You chose to lay your pain before God instead of fighting in the flesh. And in doing that, you invited the power of heaven to fight for you. What you did in private, those moments when you cried but still forgave, when you were hurt but didn't lash out, those were the moments that shifted things in the spiritual realm. You chose grace over vengeance, and that choice has more power than any word you could have spoken in anger. There's something holy about the decision to stay silent when falsely accused. It shows a level of maturity, of trust in God's justice that few possess. It says, I don't need to win this with my words. God will handle what I can't. That posture moves God. It invites His protection. When you chose not to strike back, you aligned yourself with the Spirit of Christ, who, when He was betrayed by Judas and denied by Peter, didn't retaliate, didn't curse, didn't even speak against them. He stayed focused on the will of the Father. And that's what you did. You didn't let bitterness consume you. You didn't allow betrayal to change your identity. You trusted God with the outcome. The beauty in your restraint is that heaven noticed. You may have thought nobody saw your pain. You may have felt invisible in your silence, but every second you held your tongue, every time you resisted the temptation to defend yourself, it became a testimony. God collects that kind of faith. He rewards it, because when you give it to Him, He makes it right. The battles you didn't fight, He's already won them for you. The lies they told, He's already silencing them. And the people who believe the wrong version of your story, He's going to show them the truth, not through your words, but through your life. This is why your silence was not weakness. It was spiritual warfare. You didn't let the enemy drag you into a fight that wasn't yours. You didn't fall into the trap of bitterness. Instead, you let God handle what only He could. That's why He's honoring you now. That's why things are shifting. You responded with grace, and grace will carry you where revenge never could. Your strength wasn't loud. It was sacred. It was a whisper between you and God that said, I trust you to defend me. And He is. He's already moving. He's already exposing. He's already restoring. Because you trusted Him enough to stay still, He's preparing to show you what happens when heaven fights for those who remain faithful. God never lets deception hide forever. He may allow things to remain covered for a season, but His justice always has a timetable. There comes a moment when the truth must rise, when what was hidden in the dark must be brought into the light. You endured betrayal, and for a while it looked like they got away with it. They smiled, they moved on. They pretended nothing ever happened while you were left with the damage. But God was never asleep. He didn't miss it. And now the moment of divine exposure is here, not because you sought revenge, but because God cannot allow evil to go unchecked. There is a time when God lets people reveal who they truly are, and that time always comes. The one who betrayed you may have fooled others. They may have worn a mask of kindness, humility, or spirituality, but God is removing that mask. Their actions may have been hidden from man, but not from God. Nothing is truly secret in the presence of the Almighty. Their manipulation, their lies, the way they twisted the story to make themselves look innocent, all of it is under the eye of heaven. And now the covering is being pulled back, slowly powerfully and completely. God doesn't just expose for punishment. He exposes for protection. He is protecting you from ever going back to what hurt you. He is protecting your future by revealing what was once hidden in your past. He is showing you what you need to see so you don't remain bound to a false version of reality. The exposure is not just for justice, it's for clarity. It is to make sure you no longer carry guilt for something you didn't do. It is to release you from shame and to silence the lies that have followed you. This exposure is freedom. It is heaven's way of clearing your name, restoring your voice, and proving that God never abandons his children. You didn't have to manipulate